How we doing, everybody? And welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're coming back on this Wednesday. We're calmed down now, right? It's the new year. We put that Packer game to the past now. It's in the past, right? It's last year. I had a stupid joke, right? Stupid joke to top off the hour. But hey, we moved on. But we want to talk about that game a little bit more. Talk about some of the things that we've been seeing as of late that are making me a little nervous, I guess, with this Packers team. So we got a lot to get into there. There's, breaking news out of the Packers. Not really breaking. I didn't expect this guy to come back, but we want to talk about that injury report today. We got lots to get into. Badger basketball is back in action on Friday. We won't be live until after the start of that game, so we want to give our preview today. The Bucks got a win over the Pacers. We want to get into that game here. So we got lots to get into. College football playoff to touch on. Oh my goodness, there's so much to get into on a Wednesday here, January 1st of the new year. So I got Aaron with me tonight. Aaron, how we doing? It's the new year. It's 2025. Oh my goodness. And Ohio State is still running tables.
Yeah, it's just like, what's the difference between yesterday and today? But no, I don't want to rain on, like, it gets, I don't know, man. I couldn't stand out there in New York like those people do, though. That's absurd. It's crazy. Like, that'll forever be a thing, I guess. Like, that will never go away. But yeah, new year. I mean, the college football playoff, I think. I got some friends that were saying how, that they're more NFL fans than they are college. And they said, this college football playoff is the reason I don't watch college. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a different argument for a different day. But they definitely are like, these games aren't fun to watch for the most part. And I mean, yeah, it's unfortunately lopsided a lot, like 9 out of 10 of them are basically. But yeah, I mean, it's still college football is a great thing no matter what, in my opinion. And if you give me more of it, I like it. It's just you hope to see closer games. I hope this next round presents closer games, but yeah, overall doing all right. Just kind of going through the motions,
Well, better now. You were at urgent care earlier. I thought, your stomach was going to get pumped. The whole world was ending. I was like, I don't know if this guy's going to be here tonight or not. I knew you had to be because Penn State got the win. So
if they didn't win, man, I might be an absentee. But no, I mean, yeah, man, it's always something. Like I don't even drink hardly at all anymore, and of course, like it's one of them things, man. I don't want to self pity on the show, but it's just sometimes life kicks your ass. As simple as that.
It's got to every once in a while. It's got to, right? That's what Rocky told me. That's
true too.
Movie, right? So, I mean, hey, we're here though. It's a great day. It's a great day to talk sports. The college football playoff, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's been exciting. We did not see this one. The Ohio State 34-8 over Oregon right now. Right now, Ohio State looks like they could run floor to floor with anybody at this point. I mean, I don't care if it's Texas, Georgia. I don't care who you put in. I mean, they're going to run it at this point. Like, holy crap. I did not see 34-8 at the half against Oregon coming into this one. Oregon, yes, they might have been a little rusty coming into it. I thought, right away, I was like, oh, Oregon's just a little rusty. They've had a couple weeks off. I figure they'll settle into this game. They did not settle into this game. Like this, I mean, it's a lot of game left, right? There's a lot of game left. But they would need Ohio State to completely fall face first on the ground and just lay there for about a quarter and a half. And then we could count it as a game. Right now, this is a blowout. So craziness there. Penn State gets the win. That game was, yeah. I mean, I was impressed by Boise State for a while there. They were keeping it close. It was 24-14 at one point. And then Penn State just willed them, right? It came to the point where Penn State was just the better team. And that's just plain and simple where it ended up. Defensive line for Penn State was fantastic. I thought Carter played the way that they can stunt guys, the way that they bring guys. Boise State just didn't have an answer for him. And Ashton Jeanty, we saw him in that. He struggled. He struggled in that game. We did not expect that. That's the one thing that couldn't happen to Boise State was Ashton Jeanty got bottled up. And he did have he broke a couple, but nothing like we've seen all season long. I mean, it's a big dog world, and you get Boise State against them, and that's what we saw there. Though their defense did play well. I thought their defense played well at times in this one. There was a couple blown coverages here and there. But outside of that, for the amount of weapons that Penn State has, you talk about two great running backs. You talk about a tight end who could be very high up in the draft. And then you talk about a wide receiver core that isn't talked about enough. They have a lot of playmakers out there. That's an impressive all the way around unit that Penn State's got.
Yeah, maybe I am definitely sounding glass half empty to a certain degree. I mean, I just thought Penn State had every chance to make this. I mean, 31-14, you look at it like, yeah, that's lopsided, which I mean, it ended up being that, but I just, man, I go back to a couple of the third down play calling where I scratching my head like, what are we trying to, make this game more interesting than it really needs to be? I mean, give Boise State credit. They made plays when they had to. I was more, I mean, I don't want to say shocked, but I was more impressed with them defensively than like offensively. I mean, they made some plays, but I mean, it just didn't feel like they would ever fully get it together. I mean, second half they kind of did there in the third quarter to put 7 on the board, but first half they get that one touchdown there as well. But I just thought, I mean, Penn State on the ground, like, one of my buddies was giving me like he hates Penn State with a passion, and I'm like, I was like, Gentry who? Because like, I mean, Penn State's running backs, both of them almost averaged 8 yards a carry. I mean, Singleton 7.2, and then Katron 7.9. Like Katron was really the reason they could move the ball, in my opinion. I just thought he was the tone setter. He looked fast last night, and like he's usually not fast. He's just like between the tackles, you need 3 to 4 yards real quick. He can get that for you. But I mean, the one they called back especially would have been crazy. But I mean, he was just kind of running through all the holes, all the gaps. I'm nothing to take away from Gentry, but I thought that this had the chance to be to play out like this, just because playing in the Mountain West, you don't see a D line like Penn State. I mean, you always mention that you're impressed with Penn State's D line. I just thought that was going to be kind of men among boys, just like when a team goes to play Ohio State. It's like Indiana goes to play Ohio State. It's like, oh man, like you see the difference there. So those couple things stood out to me. I thought Aller played a decent game. He missed some throws that I was kind of scratching my head about, but didn't turn the ball over. I mean, the fumble, he does put the ball on the ground there once, but no picks. I don't know. This game kind of played out the way I wasn't that worried about it. A lot of people were saying Boise State was going to win this, and I just didn't really, even taking my bias aside, I just didn't see it. Not to take anything away from them. I just, like you said, I think Penn State's a better team. But yeah, I mean, it kind of played out similar, like I said, to how I thought. Just it was more so the running game for Penn State. That was kind of the story of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would agree. They just willed it. I mean, they played old Big Ten football a little bit there, and they found a way to, turn this game from what it was. I thought it was closer at first, right? It felt like a close game for a while there. Boise State had their shots. They had their shots to keep this, bring it even closer, and they just weren't able to get over that hump. So it was a pretty good game all the way around. But Penn State, it felt like when I was watching it, I know the score is different, but it felt like the Wisconsin-Penn State game. Like it just felt like
really?
Wisconsin was always right there. It felt like it was within reach, right? It felt like it was within reach. And then all of a sudden, Penn State's ground game just took off, and then it was done. And I felt that when I think Katron Allen broke off the last one, and he had a big gainer there. And I was like, yeah, this is like, it's not the same, but it was like, I had that feeling where like Boise State hung for a while. And they were playing good, and the defense looked good, and the offense was doing a little bit, right? They scored their first touchdown on a run with their fullback, so that even like more like Wisconsin, right? Not this season, but felt like more of a Wisconsin thing to do. And then Penn State just slowly pulled away late, and that's it. It felt like Wisconsin. It really did to me this game here.
No, I could see that. Going back, it's a little cloudy already for some reasons. I kind of just got that game over with and done. But
people forget about us. It's fine. They forget
about no. Even the Boise State one, just because now I'm thinking back. I mean, they take that 14-0 lead, which off the gate, I was like, man, Penn State was like they looked ready, and like hardly ever do they look that ready. I don't know what it is, but they just don't. But the turnover, when then Boise State made it 14-7, I was like, that changed a lot, because I think Penn State was driving at the time. That's when I think the fumble occurred. Like, if you go up 21-0, you're really stepping on their throat at that. Like, because they want to run the ball. Obviously with Gentry, like they want to. And at 21-0, I mean, you can play patient like that, but most of the time that's going to bite you, especially when your defense couldn't make a stop. But then flip it. Penn State commits a turnover. That did change the outcome. Like I said, I just thought there were like 2 or 3, maybe 4 moments in that game where Penn State could have just asserted their dominance, and they didn't make they made enough plays to win, but they didn't make enough plays to push Boise State out of the stadium to the point where like they had no, like this Ohio State game. Ohio State is like buried them. Like I thought at times Penn State could have buried Boise State, and they didn't. They let them hang around, which is, I mean, that's classic Penn State. They can never be like completely dominant. It just doesn't exist almost. But
no, I would agree. And that's the fumble changed that game because I said the same thing when that fumble happened. I was like, oh, that's going in Boise State's favor. Because without that, it's 21-0 most likely. The game is probably over right there because wind was out of the sail of Boise State to start that game. I mean, there was no energy, nothing. And then that fumble happens and they're like, okay, we got it. We're back in this thing. And I was like, okay, it's ball game now. And I mean, it was a ball game for a while there. I'm coming out of this saying, did Boise State deserve to be a 4 seed? No. Did they deserve to be in there ahead of Alabama? Yes. They deserve to be in there ahead of Alabama because Alabama lost to Michigan. And I know Michigan, they have a good defense. I know it. They have a good defensive front. I get that. But you're telling me that you would take Alabama versus Ohio State then? No, not a chance. Oregon? No, not a chance. I wouldn't even take them against Tennessee again. To be honest with you, I wouldn't take them against Tennessee. Georgia again? No way. I'm not taking them again. I mean, you lost to Michigan, and they lost their quarterback halfway through. And then they had Orgy back out there. He's in the transfer portal. I mean, he's basically 1 foot out the door already, and you still lose that football game. And yes, I know it was raining and everything, and Milroe had the fumble, and I think he threw an interception early, and the turnovers were the big story of the game. Yeah, so what? Michigan had the ball early in that game too. They didn't turn the football over. So end of the day, you couldn't get it done against Michigan. And you're telling me that the Big Ten's not as deep as the SEC? Guess what? Michigan was not near the top of the Big Ten, and they just beat Alabama. So, shoot. I wonder, what the heck happened?
I mean, if you're one of those people on the side of Alabama should have been in, that is like the worst thing. Like, now you have what do you have to stand on now? I mean, Michigan – exactly. That's what I mean. Like Michigan, even winning this game, they go to 8-5 on the year. Like 5 losses in college football, that is not good by any stretch. Like you're not a good football team. And like towards the end of the year, I mean, they give them credit. They beat Ohio State to end the year, and now they won this bowl game there. But yeah, I mean, how do you defend? There's going to be people that they're going to say, oh well, Alabama was checked out and this and that. But I mean, this was your last chance to kind of prove. Like if they would have came out and won 40-14, Alabama, that is, I mean, then maybe, okay, you could say they could have put up a better fight against Penn State. They could have put a better fight against Ohio State, whoever it is. Right. But I don't know, man. I mean, they just looked, Milroe is not that good. I don't know. And then I got to be honest, like if I'm a Bama fan and I'm looking at Kalen DeBoer there, I'm like, dude, what? This is unraveling. Like for our standards, this is just hot garbage. Like really it is. I mean, you lose 3 games in the regular season, which is kind of unprecedented. And then you lose to the bowl game to an unranked Michigan team, which everybody thought you were better going into this. Like you better fix it quick. That's all. I'm not saying he's got to be Nick Saban 2.0, but this is kind of like far from it too. Like this is.
I would agree. I would agree. And I mean, you look at the rest of the bowl schedule, Navy beat Oklahoma. So you're talking about an Oklahoma team that beat Alabama, held them to 3 points in that game there. And then you look down the board there, USC beat Texas A&M, one of the top teams in the SEC this season. And, well, you just look at what we saw, and I get it. Guys are leaving, transfer portal, everything like that. But it still speaks to depth of conference, depth of teams too, because how far can you go down on your bench and still put a good football team on the field? So that tells you the strength of a program too, the strength of a team inside their conference. Yes, you can blame Oklahoma's on transfer guys leaving or Texas A&M's got guys leaving. Sure. But so does USC. So does Navy. They probably have, Navy doesn't have guys leaving, but I mean, you look at the rest of these teams, they have guys leaving too. So where do you draw the line on the excuses? I don't know. But I'm glad for it. That made me happy. Made me happy to see Michigan pull that game off. I'm not a big Michigan fan, but I was happy to see it there. So, Aaron, let's get a little bit. we got college football playoff has been fantastic so far. We're going to see how this one ends up here, and then we'll talk more about it probably later this week when all the college football playoff games are kind of wrapped up, and then we get on to the next round matchups there. But let's get into a little bit of Bucks versus Pacers, because I just want to talk about it a little bit. There's not much to dissect, I should say, in this one. The Bucks were down 19 in this game at one point to the Pacers. Down 19 at one point, and Giannis comes down and he hits this, he walks into it, hits this little jump shot, and he starts talking trash to Siakam. The Bucks are down 19, and I think that might have cut to 17 at that time. I can't remember completely, but he's talking trash to Siakam on the way back down the floor. I love that. I love that about Giannis, because the thing with it is the Pacers are the team that when they're up big, they're going to trash talk the crap out of you. They're going to trash talk you to no end. But when it's a close game, when they're down, not a word. They won't say a word. They'll keep it in there. They'll keep it tucked in. They'll be like, we're going to tuck our tail between our legs and just be quiet right now. But when they're up big, oh man, they're the best in the world. I love that about Giannis in this one. Giannis was sick going into this game. He's been battling the flu. The Bucks have had this little flu bug go through since they were in Vegas. Dame had it. Giannis has had it. He's been out. He comes back in this game, gives him 35 minutes of 30-point basketball coming back. He's still a little sick, gives him 30 points. Nothing but impressed. Nothing but what else can you say about this guy? I mean, he gives you 30 points a game, and he doesn't shoot threes. He doesn't shoot threes, and he's averaging more than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who everybody's like, let's give this guy the MVP. Shove it. This guy's averaging 30-some points a game right now, and he's shooting it from the inside. He's doing it on the interior. That's impressive. That's impressive in this day and age of basketball. So I love to see that out of Giannis there. 8 for 13 for the free throw line. Gave you 12 rebounds, too, on top of that. Nothing but impressed by Giannis coming back last night there. But, I mean, after the game, too, giving the game ball to the Pacers. Because if you remember last year, Aaron, the Pacers took off with his game ball, and he went all kinds of bananas on him, took off to the locker room after him, got the game ball back, whatever. Well, after this game, he goes and he gives the game ball to them because he's like, you guys can have it. I love that. Like, that's what the NBA is missing to me, outside of, too many threes and everything like that. A big thing for me in the NBA right now is there's no competitiveness. Guys are just best friends. They don't care, win or lose, whatever. Having something like this where Giannis comes out and he just hates the Pacers just because of, last season and the game ball and the playoffs and everything. I love that. Like an edge. Give me an edge. I love a team that has an edge, because the same with Chris Middleton. Middleton went for 31 minutes last night. He's still on a minute restriction, so he's not supposed to be going above 30 minutes a game. Well, he had 31. And then they talked to Doc after the game, and they're like, well, is this what we're supposed to expect out of Chris? And he said he didn't care about the minutes. That's what he told him point blank. I don't care about the minutes. He said, I'll go back in. Like, truly competitive. That's what I love about Chris Middleton, too. Like, that game meant more than anything to him. He's like, put me back in. Like, let's go win this game. He didn't care about his body at that point. He didn't care what could happen, right? Because this guy, he's injury-riddled. We know that. Chris Middleton, we just got him back, and he's supposed to be on this minute restriction. He don't care. He's like, put me back in that game. Let me go win this thing. I love that. You have a team right now and you saw it kind of in full fold here against the Pacers. You got that lineup back. The Dame, the Giannis, the Middleton, the Lopez, all on the floor at the same time. And you're like, this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting to see this. Now, Dame had a little bit of a cold night. He had 9 points in this one, 3 for 14 from the field. Not impressive, right? But what helps that is having Middleton back, because Middleton gives you 15 points. And then you see Brook Lopez give you 16 points on top of that. You have those extra scores that Dame doesn't always have to be perfect. He doesn't always have to be the guy to carry the load. You have other scorers on this team, other guys. Dame's just got to be a distributor at some points. He's just got to be able to facilitate that basketball. So love that. What I saw there. Outside of that, you got the win. You were down 19. You came back. You won this game. You never felt like you were completely out of it. You kept pushing it. And this game right here gave me the faith back in the Bucks. Because I was kind of on edge. I was like, I see them as a top 4, top 5 in the East. They could probably put a run on some teams. I don't know if they could beat the Celtics yet. We got to see it first. I don't know if they could beat the Celtics. The Cavs are questionable, But it's like, what happens when we get healthy? What happens when we get all these guys back? Now we're seeing it. We got all these guys back. We got Middleton back. We have Dame out there in full force. We have Giannis. It's been hard to, if this team can get healthy, which has been the hardest thing in the world, right? First, it was Middleton was out. Then it was getting Giannis and Dame back because they were both sick and out and everything like that. It was getting those guys back. Now that everybody's back, you just feel confident with this team again. You feel confident this Bucks team, maybe they're not as good as the Celtics, maybe not, right? But you have depth, you have pieces. Torian Prince has been playing okay. Bobby Portis has been putting up big buckets for you and rebounding the basketball well. Gary Trent's been playing well over the past couple games. AJ Green, we know he can knock down shots. Ryan Rollins should get more minutes. When Dame's not out there, Ryan Rollins should be out there. I don't know why we play him on such a minute restriction, it seems like, at points, because this guy, he facilitates the basketball well. He's not a scorer. He's not a Damian Lillard. But when Lillard's not out there, you put him in. He's going to be able to facilitate that basketball to Middleton, to Giannis, be able to keep that ball moving around and get your playmakers involved. So I'm just looking at this Bucks lineup right now, and I'm like, they might not be the most impressive, but I got confidence again. After this game, after this comeback, I have confidence in this team once again that, hey, they might be able to put a little bit of a run on. They might be able to do a little bit of something. So I love what I'm seeing on the Bucks right now. I do. I love it. 17-14 right now overall. I was just going to look where they're at in the standings real quick here. Sitting fifth in the standings right now, 11 back of the Cavs, they're kind of cruising right now in first place. There are only 4 losses on the season for the Cavs. Celtics got 9, so they're 5 games back right now, the Cavs, of first place at this point. But I'm impressed. I like what I've been seeing out of the Bucks as of late here, and it's been good to see. Aaron, your 76ers are, they're 13-17 now. They've kind of moved their way back into the somewhat picture. They're almost back into the play-in tournament. I mean, what are you thinking about your Sixers so far?
I mean, they're playing well as of late. I mean, they beat the Celtics. What was that, on Christmas Day, I think there. But yeah, I mean, they picked it up recently. You know, Spurs, Celtics, Jazz, Trailblazers. You know, last 4 they've won. I mean, the last loss they had was to those Cavs you just brought up. So, I mean, playing better. It's kind of been an experiment, I guess, so far with the whole Embiid. Like, I mean, talk about a guy that just trips over his foot and, you know, twists his ankle. That guy is famous for it. But I mean, overall, I mean, they're weathering. I think they're a playoff team. I don't know if they make a deep run or anything. Just kind of looking at it from a bird's eye view there. But yeah, I mean, they got off to a horrible start. I think they were like 1-10 at one point or something like that earlier in the season there. So yeah, I mean, on the Sixers front, not great by any stretch, but yeah, the Bucks. I mean, if you look at the Bucks roster, like it's good. It's just, you know, like you said, can they all stay on the court? Well, that's like any team though. But I mean, they've had their struggles just kind of getting that whole nucleus on the court at one time. You know, that's ideal. But yeah, I mean, there's still a long way to go. And you know, yes, the Celtics are good. Yes, the Cavs are good. But I mean, we've seen crazier things, and I'd be surprised if the Celtics repeated. I think they could, but you know, who's to say one of those, you know, like the Bucks, the Cavs, somebody take them out in the Eastern Conference? Like,
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, Giannis is on a mission. He's on a mission right now. So, I mean, I wouldn't get in that guy's way. That's all I know. I mean, it's Giannis is playing on a different level right now, and it's a lot of disrespect, I think. It's kind of a revenge tour for him right now because the Bucks weren't on Christmas. He got all pissed off about that. They weren't on Christmas. He was irritated. He's like, we got 2 of the biggest stars in the NBA. You're not putting us on Christmas. I think that's kind of the edge that he's playing with right now. Same with, and, you know, he's dislike of the Pacers, too. That definitely fuels him a little bit there. But, I mean, it's been impressive so far what the Bucks been able to do. 6-4 over their last 10 games. You look at their last few before this Pacers, they had the Bulls and the Nets. They weren't healthy. They didn't really have a closer in those games. They blew leads late. It was that kind of stretch for them. So then it was, okay, we really need Giannis back. Well, then Giannis comes back and it's like, okay, Dad's back. We're fine now. And they go and they take, you know, make this impressive comeback against the Pacers there, down 19 at one point, come back, take care of it. I mean, you love it. You love to see that there. So Bucks get the win against the Pacers. They'll be in action again tomorrow night, taking on the Nets at 7:00. That'll be in Milwaukee for that game there. So should be some good stuff there. We'll get into that one on Friday there. But Aaron, hey, before we move on here, we're going to get to our ad break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little Badger men's basketball versus Iowa. Then we're going to get to a little bit of Packer talk here and some more stuff. to wrap up the day here. So let's get to our ad break, and we'll see you guys on
This
the other
show
side.
is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Next, we have Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood. Have you been injured recently, whether it was at work, shoveling snow, or mowing the lawn? Stop in and see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. He will get you right, get you back to work, back to shoveling snow, back to mowing the lawn, doing whatever you were doing, feeling better than ever. And then we have Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear.
You got to check out Game Day Supply down there. They got all the our sweet swag, right? You got to get the shirts, the sweatshirts, everything. They can probably do some custom stuff. I got to ask them, right? But I mean, you get shirts like this, fancy shirts like that, got our logo, support us here on the show. All kinds of fantastic stuff there. So, Aaron, let's get over to the Badgers. They're taking on Iowa here. It's been a little bit of a break for the Badgers. I mean, we're talking about last game was last Sunday against was it last Sunday there that they took on Detroit Mercy? It's been a hot minute. It's been a hot minute.
Was it just last? It might have even been.
It was week before that. It was the
I was
going to
say it was like a 3 week span there almost.
It's been a hot minute. I was just going to double check there. December 22nd was their last game against Detroit Mercy there. So we're talking about, I mean, almost a 2-week layoff there before you're going to go take on Iowa. So you got a big test ahead of you. Iowa, they're 10-3. They're not top 25. I wouldn't say they're top 25 material, but this is a good team in Iowa. This is a good team in Iowa. If you take them lightly, you're probably going to get dump trucked. Like that's just the way Iowa is. I mean, it seems like that's Iowa every single year underneath the Fran McCaffrey, is that they're never great, but they're solid. And if you take them lightly, if you mess around a little bit too much, they always play physical. They always get after you. It's going to be one of those, you almost, I don't want to say it's like football usually, right? But it's a smash mouth kind of game. Like it's when you play Iowa, it's Big Ten basketball. Like you got to come ready to play. You got to become ready to be physical. You got to get after the glass. You got to do little things. So Iowa coming in 10-3, 1-1 in Big Ten play. They lost to Michigan. That was their one loss in the Big Ten there by 2. Iowa State, that's a pretty good team at Iowa State right now. They were number 3 in the country at the time. They lost that game by 9, a little in-state rivalry game between those two, and they're winners of their last 3. So Iowa's coming in this game off of 3 straight wins now. Last played on, I believe it was on the 30th. So they've been in action since the Badgers have a little bit. They've actually had only one game since the Badgers have last squared off there. So they've been in action as of late. Got a big win over, I don't even know who this is. The University of New Hampshire, maybe? Yep. New Hampshire Wildcats. That's a 2-13 team that you should be 1-12 to 70 there. So we know Iowa can put up points, right? This is an Iowa team who's up near the top in Big Ten rankings for a lot of statistical categories. I was looking through it earlier there. They're averaging 89 points a game right now. Looking at field goal percentage, they're shooting 51% as a team. That's impressive. Outside of that, 5.5 blocks a game, which I'm going to get into here, but 5.5 blocks per game for Iowa on the season so far. So nothing but impressed by some of the stats that I see coming out of this Iowa team. They're well-grounded, well-unit, and it's going to be a test. It is definitely going to be a test there. One of the big players for him, the big fella, Owen Freeman there, the 6'10 forward for him, leads him in scoring, 17.1 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 2 blocks a game, 66% from the floor. That's impressive. That is impressive. Now, a lot of that is on the inside. He is shooting 40% from downtown, which looks like a good percentage. I believe he's 4 for 10, so he doesn't shoot a lot of them. He's not afraid to shoot them, but he doesn't shoot a lot of them. So he's 4 for 10. So 66% though, that's basically from the interior. That's an impressive stat line right there for Owen Freeman. So he's been fantastic for him. Peyton Sanford, we all know about Peyton Sanford, the forward there, 6'8", 16.5 points a game, 5.8 rebounds, 1 steal, 33% from downtown on the season so far. He's been shooting an impressive clip, 33%, not bad at all. I wouldn't shake my head at it at all. So he's been impressive from there. And then Josh Dix, the guard for him, 13.3 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 39% from downtown and 53% from the floor. So 39% from downtown, 53% from the floor. They got some good scores. They have some good scores that shoot at a high rate, right? Sometimes you get volume shooters who there's a lot of shots going up and not a high percentage. Iowa, they got a good percentage. I mean, you're talking 51% from the floor as a team on the season so far. So love what I've been seeing out of the I don't want to say I love what I've been seeing out of the Iowa Hawkeyes, but I love what I've been seeing out of their shooting. I mean, that's nothing but impressed from this side of it. I mean, the only team in the Big Ten shooting better than Iowa from the floor has been Michigan, who is 51.2. So you put that in, I mean, they're 0.1 away from being the top team in the Big Ten right now in field goal percentage on the season. I mean, Wisconsin, field goal percentage, I believe they're hovering in that like 40% from the floor, 44% from the floor. So you put that in perspective of what you've been seeing between Iowa and Wisconsin so far on the season here. But Iowa's been impressive. 67% from the line, not so impressive. So from the free throw line, they struggle. You want to know how to beat Iowa? You got to win that free throw battle, right? So 67% as a team from the free throw line for Iowa there, 51% from the floor, like we were talking, nothing but impressed. 38% from three as a team. So they shoot it well. They shoot it well from downtown, 38% there, 89.2 points per game, which we mentioned there earlier. Number one team in the Big Ten in scoring so far here early on in the season. 34 rebounds per game there, and then 10 turnovers. So they don't turn the basketball over a lot, which is another thing that you look at. You're like, okay, you get into some of these games, can we turn you over? Will they try to turn us over, right? Iowa, they're going to turn you over too, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, steals per game right now, they were up near 5, I believe. 8.5 steals per game on the season so far. And that's, you get skewed stats in there every once in a while. So you say that's probably about 5 to 8 steals per game there, but 10 turnovers. So they want to turn you over, and they don't turn the basketball over a lot. That's something that the Badgers don't steal. They don't get a lot of steals, but they do get into some turnover problems, right? We talked about against Marquette. They got in a little frisky, got a little turnover happy there. So that's something you got to avoid if you're Wisconsin here. Don't play into Iowa's hand, right? That's what they want. They want you to turn the basketball over. They're going to take care of it themselves. Like I said before, I mean, Iowa plays true Big Ten basketball, right? The things that we remember, don't turn the basketball over, try to get to the free throw line, do those little things right, rebound the basketball, own the paint area. That's what they want to do. So some of my keys for this game against Iowa. Number one, control that paint area. Something I just mentioned. Iowa wants to control that paint area. They want to get to the glass. They want to control the glass. They want to control the painted area. That's something that Wisconsin has to limit and take care of themselves there, because you let that get out of control, you let the points in the paint get out of control, and you're trying to rely on your three-point shooting and get you back into it, unless you're feeling it on that night, in which the Badgers, it's hit or miss at times with this team. I mean, you got to protect that glass. So that's where I'm looking. Number one, you got to try and bottle up Freeman, right? I mentioned him earlier, 17 points a game there. He's their interior presence, and they want to get him the basketball. So the biggest thing I'm looking at, bottle him up. Try and bottle him up, right? That's the biggest thing. And defensively, this guy's a good shot blocker. He's averaging 2 blocks a game right now. You don't want to get into dangerous situations against him there, right? Drive with a purpose, get inside, shot fake, whatever it is, get him up in the air, try to get him in foul trouble. You get him in foul trouble, you get him out, get to see the depth of this team, it becomes more favorable for you. So that's something I'm looking at there. Avoid getting sloppy, right? Iowa can get a lot of steals, take advantage of those steals. Something I mentioned earlier there, you got to avoid getting sloppy in this game. Those costly, untimely turnovers, right? You got to avoid those in this game. The arid passes, the travels, those little things that hurt a team. That's what Wisconsin has to avoid here. John Tonje needs to get in some kind of rhythm. We mentioned against Detroit Mercy, 9 points a game. Greg Gard came out and spoke against it. He's like, hey, my guy's got to play a lot better. We know he's a star. He's got to start playing like a star. His points per game went down. I believe he's at 23 in the month of November, dropped to 13 in the month of December. I know less games, that happens, but hey, John Tonje's got to be better. So I'm looking for John Tonje to get back in rhythm in this game and be that dude, right? Be that number one option for this Badgers team. Get to the free throw line. Something that the Badgers, when they win basketball games, you got to look at the free throw totals. They get there about 20 plus times a game. That's where you got to live, right? That's where the Badgers want to live. They want to get to the line. They want to score with the clock stopped. Those little things, right? Badgers, when they get to the line, they do work. That's what I want to see in this one, because it's not just like Marquette fans will say, and they're like, oh, well, you can only score when you get to the free throw line. No. If we get to the free throw line, that means that we're attacking the hoop, we're getting downhill, we're driving, we're getting inside, and we're doing work on the interior. That's why I want to see the Badgers get to the free throw line, because that tells me we're getting downhill, we're getting to the glass, we're putting up good shots. That's what I want to see in this one. So get to the free throw line if you are the Badgers in this one. Perimeter defense has got to be better. We mentioned it there the other day. We were talking about it. The Badgers defensively, what's their biggest killer? Drivers, right? Getting past their perimeter defense. So that's where I'm looking with this Badger team. Got to play better on the perimeter in this one. Control that pick and roll game. Keep the guards in front of you. It goes along with that perimeter defense there. Limiting the three-point shots while also limiting what they can do when driving the basketball, because you don't want to get in a game where Iowa is able to pick you apart and get into that painted area and put up little bunnies. That's going to hurt you late. So defensively, got to play better in this one here. Iowa leads the Big Ten in blocks, 5.5. I mentioned that in my keys, mentioned it before there. That's something that if you're Wisconsin, you got to read that stat and say, okay, we know that they love to block shots. It's something that the Badgers don't do well. They don't block a lot of shots. This team, they love to block you. So when you get inside, you got to be cautious. You got to be wary of what's around you, right? Don't get into double teams. Double team comes, kick it out. That's what I want to see. Don't go away from the post area, because that's my next point. Get the post involved in this game. If they want to block shots, if they want to get a double team down there, sure, let them. Because guess what? They want to double Steve, kick it back out. Do those little things in this one. Get the post involved. The Badgers should be just fine in this game against Iowa. It's at home, right? And that's definitely the key, right? It's at the Kohl Center. You got to win your home games in the Big Ten. We talk about it all the time. Going on the road in the Big Ten, it's tough. It's tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. At home against Iowa, this is a game you got to have. Right now, they're favoring them 69% is what ESPN is giving the Badgers in this game. I don't like that. Give me 50-50, right? Give me 50-50. It makes me feel better, right? Makes me feel like this is going to be a good game. One of my last things, I want to see Max Klesmit give me a game. I want to see that guy give me a game. It's been a while. It's been a while, Marquette, since I've been able to say Max Klesmit is that dude. Give Max Klesmit some open looks, and that's where getting the post involved, getting those kick-out shots for him, that's going to be big. So I want to see Max Klesmit get involved in this game, see what the bench can do against this Iowa team, see how deep Greg Gard's willing to go against a good Iowa team here. This is going to be a test. This is going to be a big test for the Badgers to see where they're at spectrum-wise, right? We saw Michigan. Michigan's a pretty darn good team, in my opinion. I don't know who would argue with me. I think that's a very good team in Michigan from what I've seen so far. So, I mean, they're 2-0 in conference play right now. So now you're going to take on an Iowa team who's 1-1, right? The Badgers 0-2 in Big Ten play, not a good start. But you want to see where you're at spectrum-wise, right? You want to see where you're kind of sitting, because you're going to have some good games. I mean, you got UCLA on the docket at some point here, Michigan State. You're going to be playing some of the top teams. You're going to play some of the lower teams. Where do you fit in? And I think a game against Iowa is going to tell you where you fit in into this spectrum of Big Ten teams. So I can't wait. I can't wait for Badge basketball to be back. And once it's back, I mean, Aaron, I love it once it's back, because you get this break, right? We had this long break, not a lot of games, but once the Big Ten slate starts, then it's like, woof. You get like 3 games in a week, 2 games in a week. They're all coming at you. It's like you get a day off, and then you got Badger basketball back again. I mean, they play Iowa on the 3rd, Rutgers on the 6th. The 10th, they have Minnesota. The 14th, they have Ohio State. On the 16th, they play USC. The 21st, or the 18th, they play USC. The 21st, they have UCLA. I mean, it's just like boom, 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 boom. You're back into Big Ten action. I love it. So I can't wait for the Badgers to be back in action. Iowa coming up on Friday there. I know it's on Friday. We have a show on Friday, but it's at 6 o'clock. I got to coach basketball before that, so we won't be on until after the start of the game. So just wanted to give our preview for that game here coming up. So, Aaron, let's talk a little Packers, because, oh, yeah. The news coming out of today, right? The big news. Jair Alexander is going to have season-ending knee surgery. Now, somebody did say, well, if they make it to the Super Bowl, then he might come back. Shut up. He's done. Let's just go with that. He's done. He's done.
I love when people play that what if game.
I'm not living in the optimistic world where it's like, if we go to the Super Bowl, he might be able to play in the second half. Like, I'm done with that. I thought he could play 2 weeks ago. And it just, I mean, it was week after week. We saw it on the injury report. It was like full participant, limited, and then it would say did not participate, and he was out for Sunday. And we're like, what the heck's going on? Well, apparently there was swelling in the knee. That happens. There was swelling in the knee, I guess. And we get what we get. I mean, it says, according to us, I'm reading off of Tom Silverstein's tweet that I reposted there. According to a source, Alexander had an arthroscopic procedure to figure out what was causing the pain in his knee and cleaning it out. It's not considered major surgery. He tried to work through it in practice, but kept tweaking it. His season is over. So essentially, I mean, that's what we saw. He'd come back to practice. He'd try. We'd see him as a full participant. Then he was limited. Then he did not practice at all. It was swelling. It was everything else. They didn't know what the heck was going on. And everybody's big argument was, why it was surgery not an option right away? Like, why didn't we get surgery? I don't know. Like, we don't know. We need to have more information on that. If somebody asked a question, which I feel like sometimes Green Bay media doesn't help us out with that. They don't ask the hard questions, right? They're not like New York media or anything like that. They don't grill you with the hard questions. So they kind of let those go. But it makes you wonder, okay, was it an option right away? Did the doctor say, you could try to recover from this, but odds are you're going to need surgery? And then, Jair and everybody else was like, maybe we'll just wait. Maybe we'll just see if we can, get better. And maybe the recovery time off of the surgery was he was going to be out for the season anyway. So he was like, hey, I want to try and work my way back. I know this about Jair. At least I think I do from watching him. He's a gamer. He wants to be out there. When he's not out there, and McKinney spoke on it after practice today. McKinney was speaking on it. He said he wants to be out there. He wants to try and get back. But it just couldn't. He couldn't get better. He was trying, but he couldn't get better. So it makes you wonder then, okay, if surgery was the option, what was the timetable, right? And if they said, well, if you didn't get surgery, it could be better in 2 weeks, right? Then it was, okay, which would I rather do? Take the surgery, make sure it's better, but I might not be back until the second round of playoffs. Or they're giving me this option of, if I try and just work through it, I could be back by, let's just say, week 16, week 17, right? Maybe that was an option. I don't know what the options were, right? We're never probably going to figure it out. But, I mean, it stinks because we might have just seen, well, we didn't even see it. It's been weeks now, but we might have seen the last of Jair Alexander actually playing on a football field for the Green Bay Packers, because they can save. What did we figure out the other day? It was like almost $8 million if they cut him before the deadline, and then after that, it's like 17.1 that they would owe him, or owe on the dead cap, or whatever it is there. So, I mean, this could be it. This could be the last we saw of Jair Alexander playing with the Packers. Now, for me, as much as I hate that, I would say to move on, just because you cannot. 7 games a piece in the last 2 seasons. He played 7 games in 2023 and 2024. He played 7 games. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, if you're a general manager, like, this is supposed to be your guy. I saw a stat. I believe it was by Zach Cruz over there on Twitter. He said the Packers allowing 61.0 completion percentage with Alexander on the field. Without him on the field, they're allowing 70.7 completion percentage there. And you see that wide spectrum, and you're like, God, he's got to be out there, right? You want him back. That makes you want him back. But we keep going through this. It's every single season now. It's like, well, he's good. Is he going to be there? Is he going to be healthy for the entire season? When he's healthy for the whole season, you're like, heck yeah, right? The secondary looks good. But when he's not out there for an entire season, then you're like, wow, we got to find ways to improve this outside of this, right? And it is, I don't want to say that Gutekunst isn't to somewhat blame for, I don't want to blame him by any means, but when I look at the Packers secondary, and I look at who's left, and you're like, okay, I got Keyshawn Nixon. I got Valentine when he's healthy. I have Valentine out there. I have Bullard's been moved around. He gets moved to slot. Then he's back to safety for some reason. They move him around. I mean, you got pieces, but they're not good pieces. You don't have a star cornerback. So when he's out there, yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. You can juggle pieces around. But you got Eric Stokes out there when he's not healthy. And Eric Stokes has been stinking. And we know this. He's been stinking. So I don't want to say I'm blaming Gutekunst completely, but you went into a season where you were going into an NFC North with, like, look at the Vikings. They have Jefferson, they have Addison, they have Hawkinson. You look over at the Bears, and I know the Bears have stunk, but they have DJ Moore, they have Keenan Allen, they have Roma Dunze. You look over at the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jay Will. I mean, they have fantastic wide receivers across the board. And you were just hoping. You were just kind of going into the season hoping Jair Alexander would stay healthy for the entire bit. And you were hoping that your other guys would just get along and play well. At some point, you got to stop hoping. At some point, you got to put the pieces on the field that you know are going to improve, right? Or you know are going to improve your defense and make it look better. You had the offseason, you had the draft to start. And the draft, you can look at it multiple different ways. They upgraded some pieces. The book's still unwritten on Jordan Morgan on the offensive line. He's injured now, so you don't know, right? I think Marshawn Lloyd's going to be fantastic, the running back, but he's been banged up. And then when he came back, he had his appendix blow out on him, so then he had to go back out. Like, that guy's just got bad luck on top of bad luck, and it kind of sucks. But, I mean, did you address a glaring need, right? And you thought, okay, the defensive line, yes, that was a glaring need in my eyes, but you were like, okay, maybe Lucas Van Ness takes that next step. Maybe these other guys take that next step. Well, they didn't. So that was a bad source of judgment there. So you don't have a good front, right? You don't have a good front at times. And then you buckle that in with a bad secondary, or not a bad secondary, but a subpar secondary. I mean, you were asking for disaster. You were asking for problems. And we're seeing those problems. We're seeing it every once in a while here. Now, you can blame injury too, right? Evan Williams goes down with injury. Not good there. Javian Bullard's been banged up at times. Corey Ballantyne was banged up. But at the end of the day, you didn't have serviceable pieces to back that up. And if you do, you're not utilizing them. I thought Kalen King could get some time. He hasn't been able to see the field. They have a couple other pieces. I was like, oh, maybe, just maybe. But you didn't address it. And then you got to free agency, or not free agency. You got to the trade deadline. And you were like, I heard Greg Newsome from the Browns, and I was like, yes, give us a secondary piece, right? Maybe he's not Jair at full health. Maybe he's not that kind of skill set, but he's a good corner. He's a solid corner who you can match up with guys. You didn't go after him. Instead, you traded away Preston Smith, which was good, I think, in hindsight, and you got other guys' time there. But outside of that, you didn't do anything. So it's like you had multiple opportunities to fix a glaring weakness, because you knew Jair it's always some kind of injury with him that keeps him out. And it's been this way, and the Packers just didn't address it. And it stinks. It really does. It stinks, because now Jair's out for the season and you're heading into the playoffs. And my hope was this whole time was that at some point Jair was going to come back. And I was like, when he comes back, the secondary will be good again. We'll look good. Everything will feel better about it. The defense will get a spark in there. I'm like, yes. But now it's like, oh, not anymore. Not anymore. He's gone, right? He's done for the season. So that stinks there. That stinks. But I did see, Matt LaFleur also did say, all healthy players will play against the Bears. So, yes, that is what they need. They need all healthy players to be out there against the Bears in this one. Aaron, I did have one, and I wanted to discuss this today. Jordan Love, to me, and this is just me, Jordan Love doesn't look like Jordan Love. He doesn't look like Jordan Love. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to speculate here for a second. I'm going to speculate because everybody can speculate, so can I. Jordan Love doesn't look like Jordan Love because of the interceptions early on and somebody getting into his ear that he needs to be more careful with the football. Because when was the last time we saw Jordan Love make one of those dangerous throws where a receiver goes and gets it? When was that? When was that last time? Because Jordan Love looks like he's playing like he's a whole of him. He's not himself. He's not playing like himself. With Jordan Love, and this is what I've said the whole time, because everybody, they kind of get after you. They'd be like, wow, Jordan Love, he throws all them interceptions. It sucks. Like, right? He's not a good quarterback because he throws all them. No. You take the good with the bad with Jordan Love. He's going to make some dangerous throws. Like I said earlier on this year, when he was that throw against the Lions where he kind of just flipped it out there and it got picked off and housed for 6. He makes those stupid decisions, right? The stupid decisions like those. Where it's like, why are you throwing that football? Just take the sack, throw it out of bounds. He's trying to make things happen when they aren't there. But when I look at it now, I'm like, he hesitates. He's inaccurate right now. And a big thing that I noticed with him and watching some of the clips back of these last couple games, he doesn't throw time. He doesn't throw on time, right? He waits for a guy to get open. You watch Sam Darnold and you watch like Jared Goff and you watch some of these other guys, and it's like when Jefferson makes his turn, and I love watching Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase because it's like Joe Burrow knows that Jamar Chase is going to turn a needle right there, and he's going to be open on the backside of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Jordan Love doesn't do that. He's not doing that right now. He's being careful with the football. He's waiting for guys to get open. And then when they're open, now he's throwing the football. You can't do that. Yeah, you can do that every once in a while, but you got to have those timely throws where it's like Romeo Doubs. Let's just say Romeo Doubs is going out. He's doing a little out route, right? And all of a sudden, he's got to turn, and the football, like you watch Sam Darnold in a couple of his throws, guys' heads weren't even turned yet, and the football is in the air. And then all of a sudden, they flip their head, boom, it's right there. And it's like Jordan Love's not doing that for me right now. You see he's not anticipating what's going to happen. He's waiting for it to happen. And then when you wait for it to happen, sometimes it's too late. So I'm seeing that with Jordan Love right now. Lots of deep dropbacks and the back foot crap again. He's throwing a lot off that back foot. He's not getting the drive into the football like we want, right? And that could be leading to some of that inaccuracy with those throws. My biggest question is he in his own head? Right? Is he in his own head at this point? Is Matt LaFleur in his head? Because if I'm the Packers, if I'm one of them guys in there, I'm walking up to him and I'm saying, dude, play like you. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try. Jordan Love, sometimes he's got to go and win you a game, right? He's got to go win you a game. But when I want him to go win me a game, I want Jordan Love to be Jordan Love. I want him to take shots. I want him to take risks. I want him to throw the football around like I know Jordan Love can do. Right now, we know Jordan Love's a good quarterback. We know he could be a great quarterback. Everybody's like, oh, well, Malik Willis is 2-0. Shut up. I'm done with the Malik Willis talk. All right?
That still gets brought up too? Like people
still gets brought up all the time.
Because they're like teetering late. Yeah, like the Packers aren't playing at top level. So
they truthfully believe that if you put Malik Willis out there, this Packer team would be freaking 17-0, and they would have just ran the table with everybody and won it all. Like that's truthfully what some people seem like they believe out there. But I mean, I just watch this guy, and it's just like he's a shell of himself. He could be. We know he could be a great quarterback. We saw it last year. We saw him go on this burner down the stretch where all of a sudden he was going into Dallas and he's throwing it like he's prime Aaron Rodgers. Like he's just chucking the ball around like he's that guy. We haven't seen that guy. That guy's gone. That guy's not there right now. How do you get back to it? Let him be him. He's going to make big-time throws. He's going to make mistakes. That's just how it goes. Another thing, Aaron, and this is what I wanted to another thing that I think could help with that, why don't they run a play-action scheme? Jordan Love, I believe, if I had the stat, I wrote the stat down. Among quarterbacks with at least 200 dropbacks on the season, Jordan Love is 16th in play-action passes. 16th in play-action passes. You have a guy by the name of Josh Jacobs in your backfield. You have a guy by the name of Tucker Kraft out there as a tight end, and you are 16th in play-action passes? I don't get it. You have a dominant run game. You have a quarterback who we know can sell a fake and who is impressive there with his legs. Another thing, why doesn't he scramble anymore? I don't know. It seems like he's hesitant to scramble too. I don't know if they're trying to protect him or what he's doing. I am lost with that landscape right now. But the play-action pass opens it all up. Why is he 16th in play-action pass? Why is Jared Goff successful? Why is Sam Darnold successful? They run the play action. They utilize what they have. You have a dominant run game. You're going to get the linebackers to bite on that. You're going to get everybody to bite. And then guess what? Here's Tucker Kraft, wide open across the middle of the field, wide open, running straight up the field, whatever it is. You got the tight end to utilize. You have the playmakers to utilize, and yet you don't utilize it. But Aaron, I mean, have you seen kind of what I'm saying with Jordan Love as of late? He's not playing like the Jordan Love that I thought he could be.
No, I agree. I think he, like, even if you watch him, I mean, it's hard with him because, one play you'll watch him and boom, the ball come out like out of a cannon because that guy has velocity. It feels like anybody that plays at Green Bay has velocity for some reason. Like, Favre is the one that, basically took Stuart Scott's eye out from ESPN, just throwing the ball around. And then Aaron Rodgers, I mean, not Aaron Rodgers of today, but Green Bay Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he could just whip that thing. And then Jordan Love, same thing. So when you see him kind of, and I get it, those guys go through their progressions and certain plays, it's not going to come right out. But just kind of in that Vikings game, it looked like he was. I don't know if it's a thing where he's doubting the receivers or like they're not on the same page. Is it a communication issue? Because you'll see that. I mean, I've seen that with Jalen Hurts the last couple of years. It'll just like it'll be 14 weeks in, and all of a sudden they can't seem to be on the same page. Like I don't really understand how that happens, other than you just mix the play up. Like the receiver thought I had to run here, and the quarterback thought you. I mean, other than that, like that should just be they should be in unison every time because the quarterback's calling the play, boom, they snap it, and it just goes. But yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I agree. I mean, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks where they'll turn the ball over quite a bit, like Jordan Love has kind of this season, and then towards the end of the year, they're like trying to make some massive like, okay, I was throwing 2 to 3 picks, every couple games or every other game or whatever, and then boom, I'm gonna just like put myself in a box. And like you kind of hit on it there. Is it the coaching that's saying, hey, you need to like reel it in, or is it Jordan Love like mentally like kind of anxious, mentally kind of like pressing, where he's like, you know what, I can't turn the ball, like I did that early in the season. I don't want to put us in a position. But on the flip side of that, like how you were talking about the Packers, the cornerbacks and stuff like that, the Vikings have receivers for days, and Darnold's chucking it everywhere. The Lions have receivers for days, and they're chucking it everything. Like if you're Jordan Love, I mean, sure, you might lose that way. You throw a pick or what have you. But the defense kind of, I mean, they did kind of get lit up against the Vikings. So it's like you kind of have to match them. You kind of have to say, you know what, I'm going to be the guy to make, like Favre was never afraid to just say, you know what, if we lose the game because of me, we'll lose the game because of me. But maybe Jordan Love needs that again. Like maybe, and maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe it's the coaching staff saying, hey, just take what's there, check it down. Don't throw it into tight windows. But at some point, I mean, especially like in the playoffs, yeah, you don't want to, because I'll never forget that interception Favre threw when he was on the Vikings. That was just like brutal. But if you don't, make kind of a risky throw, sometimes you never know what could have happened either. Like I hate that whole like we're just gonna play to keep pace mentality, because most of the time it comes back and bites you. So hopefully Jordan Love can say, you know what, throw that out the window. I mean, even if the Bears had a good like O line, I mean, look at their receivers. They like, Caleb Williams probably would be chucking it all over the place too. So like that whole division, you got guys in the receiving cores that are just, top tier. And then, the Packers have that, by committee receiving room, which can work. But is it Jordan Love saying, you know what, these guys aren't like, I'm having second thoughts when I'm throwing the ball to these guys because, we're not on the same page, or they're not getting separation like I need it. Like there's so many things that go into the game that like, yeah, we can sit here and say Jordan Love is stinking it up right now or whatever. It might be a lot more. It's probably a lot more than that to it. It's just when how much of it can be fixed quickly. That would be my next, that's where I would go with it. How can we fix it quickly? Or is this like, dang, we got to roll into next season to like really fix it,
Yeah, the big thing we're saying is we're not saying that he is the sole reason why this is kind of up and down, right? We play a good team. We're not saying that's the sole reason, but we're saying that he's playing like a shell of himself right now. And when he plays like we know that he can play, this Packers team's different. They're different. Now, not having the vertical threat of Christian Watson did hurt. And also, we heard from both Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love after the game. They talked about the team's lack of preparation for the Vikings defensively. They weren't expecting so much man-to-man coverage. The Vikings played man-to-man on 47.1% of the snaps against the Packers. So why did it take so long for the Packers to adjust? That's my question. Why did it take you so long to adjust? Because we didn't see, the Jordan Love had 60-some yards through the air going into the fourth quarter. Why did it take so long for you to adjust to a man-to-man? And I know, right? It comes down to receivers getting open, creating separation, finding ways to get themselves open, not having Christian Watson to blow the top off the defense. Was that the reason? Because then it comes back to the question of how important is Christian Watson to this team? Because everybody's like, oh, he's fragile. We can just get rid of this guy. Guess what? When they play man-to-man and you have Stephon Gilmore, who's like 50 years old, manning up on a 20-some-year-old kid, and he's still dogging him, I guess we need Christian Watson more than we thought. I guess so. So, yes, the drop passes didn't help in that game. I mean, it's just frustrating. It really is. It's frustrating to hear something like that and say, well, you weren't ready for it. You weren't ready for the man-to-man. Okay, well, if you weren't ready for it, that's fine. That's fine. I get it. You're not always ready for what a team's going to throw at you. But it's the question of how fast can you adjust to it? And what I'm hearing from that and what I'm seeing from the stats in that game is it took you until the fourth quarter to figure it out. So what the hey happened in between then? What was happening, right? That's the biggest question we got. So we're a little late for an ad break here, so we're going to get to our commercial break there. We're going to come back. We got a fact of the day. We got a little bit more Packer talk here, and then we're going to get to our best and worst of the 2024 year. Aaron's going to come up with his. I got mine for Wisconsin sports. Aaron can come up with his on the other side there, but we'll be back on the other side of this ad break.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Marshfield Motor Speedway, located 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Tons of family fun for all ages. Great food, great drinks, great racing. I cannot think of a better way to spend a summer day or night than down at the track. Next is Sports Scene in Marshfield, Wisconsin, located at the Marshfield Mall. Get down there and see Al. He has everything you need from sports cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield. And then we have Peggy Sue Beslick, Century 21. Do you want to find your dream home or maybe looking to sell your current property? Let Peggy Sue Beslick at Century 21 help you with all of your housing or property needs.
We're in the new year. You got to buy. You got to buy houses. You got to sell houses. That's where you got to go. Peggy Sue there. That's where you got to be at. She's going to find you whatever you're looking for there. But I'm looking at, so initially looking back on that game between the Packers and the Vikings, I looked at some of the plays, some of what happened in there, and I'm looking at the coverage. And yes, I do believe not having Quay Walker, I made it seem like it wasn't as big of a deal. Not having Quay Walker back there in pass coverage, because as a linebacker, that's about all he's good at, which sucks. I mean, I'm not saying the guy can't figure it out, but at this point, he's really good in coverage, and that's about it. Not having him in coverage did hurt. But I was looking at rewatching that tape a little bit, and it wasn't as much that the coverage was terrible. I'm looking at it, it's like Sam Darnold, and he did a fantastic job. He did a fantastic job. But Sam Darnold was very good at looking off that first read, looking off the second at times, and going to his third option. And that's what we saw here. It wasn't as much of the coverage. It was the lack of pressure. Now, I know, and we did talk about it a little bit, they had, Devontae Wyatt had 4 pressures in 2 quarters, right? He went out in the third quarter. So in 2 quarters of play, he had 4 pressures. So that's impressive. Cox had 4, Clark had 4, Brooks had 2, Gary had 2, Mosby had 2, Nixon had 1, and McKinney had 1. I don't know where those 4 pressures for Kenny Clark came from because I didn't even see him at the game. So I don't know where he was because he was a no-show for me. So 4 pressures. Sometimes I question what they call pressure too. Sometimes I really question it because Kenny Clark with 4 pressures. That's why I question what they call pressures. But I'm looking at the coverage and I'm like, the coverage wasn't bad at times. But when you have to cover for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you get up to 9 seconds, 10 seconds, guess what? Somebody's open. Somebody's going to have come open. And if they didn't, then there's a pass interference call for holding down the field somewhere because somebody you got Addison, you have Jefferson, you have Naylor. You have Hawkinson. Somebody's coming open out there for weapons. So coverage is, yes, I know the secondary isn't fantastic, but you got to find ways to create pressure. I don't know what it's going to take. And I know like I just mentioned there, yes, there was pressures. I'm not saying that there wasn't any pressure, but there's pressure and then there's pressure, right? There's pressure that creates bad throws or quarterbacks' arms getting hit or quarterbacks getting hit as they throw. And then there's pressure of, yeah, we push the offensive lineman back 2 feet, but then all of a sudden Sam Darnold just steps up and he creates and he makes a good throw down the field. Those are the differences in pressure. So that's something that I got when I was rewatching some of that tape there. Outside of that, just looking through some of my notes here that I had, I got two questions. Actually, I got 1 statement and then 2 questions. It's the little things for this Packers team that need to get fixed. It's the little things. It's the drop passes. It's the pre-snap penalties. It's the play calling. It's the little things that if they fix the little things, it would look a lot better. It would look 1,000 times better. So this isn't a lost season. So we're not talking here like it's a lost season. This is just the little things continuously come back to bite. And that's where my first questioning comes to, because everybody sits there and the first excuse they make all the time is, this is a young team. We got to remember, this is a young team, right? They're going to make mistakes. When is that excuse old, right? When is that excuse done? Jordan Love, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, this offensive line, the defense, they've all been, outside of a couple, have all been a part of a playoff run now. They went to Dallas. They went to San Francisco. They played a regular season already. They've played now an entirety of this season. When is that excuse old? When are they going to get old? When can we talk crap? When can we judge, right? When can we judge this team? Is it next year? Is it 3 years from now? Do we have to wait 4 years? Like, when can we judge them? When they hit age 27, we can start to judge a guy? Like, when can we get to that point? I don't know, Aaron. I'm sick of the excuse of it's a young team. Yes, it's a young team. I get that. I understand that. But when can you start to judge a team then? Because the Packers, realistically, they get rid of Jair. Maybe some of the other aging contracts, they go into the draft, they find more young guys. Guess what? They're going to stay young. They're going to be a young team. But you're going to have experienced guys. Jordan Love is experienced, right? Dontavian Wicks, yes, he doesn't get a lot of snaps, but he's experienced. Now, the defensive line, you could say Lucas Van Ness isn't as much. Brenton Cox isn't as much, right? Edgerrin Cooper in there in the linebacker room, he's not as old, right? The cornerback room isn't aged. But when does it come to the point where you stop using that excuse? Because it's old. I think it's old. I do. I was the excuse maker for them last year when I said they're a young team, and I said they made it to that 49ers game. Yes, I believe they probably could have won that game, but at the same time, they're a young team. I didn't expect them to go where they did, and they got to that point. Then you went into this year, and it's like, okay, what's your expectations, right? What's your expectations? Because last season it was, if they make the playoffs, that's a heck of a year. But now this season, you were already in the playoffs last year. You returned just about everybody. So what was your expectation now? It should have been, we got to go for a deep run in the playoffs, whether it's second round or third round. Now, maybe not Super Bowl, right? But Super Bowl is the ultimate goal at the end of it. So you always want to have that be your main goal. But a main goal for me would have been an appearance in the divisional round, an appearance in the championship round, right? Getting deep in the playoffs. But when you use the excuse of a young team, well, is that going to be your excuse when you go to Philly in the wild card game and you get kind of just doused? Like, what is the excuse? So, Aaron, I mean, do you hear that excuse and you're like, it's got to get old at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I lost your. I see you're frozen, but I hear
frozen up on the screen right now. We're frozen. Okay, at least we're both seeing that. But hey,
okay,
we can hear each other. I think we're good on the sound everywhere else. So I mean, just keep her going.
Yeah, we'll keep rocking with it. But no, I just wanted to let you know there. But I'm glad at least you can see what I'm talking about there. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. You know, I kind of compared to like. A lot of Ravens fans, right? And like, to Lamar Jackson's credit, like he's a great quarterback in the regular season. That's how I always say it. Like he's dominant in the regular season. Like he just wins and wins and wins and wins. But their fan base is always like, everybody I know that goes for the Ravens is like, you know, but he's still amazing. He's still amazing. Like, when does that get old? When does it, like, you can criticize him in the playoffs? Like, their fan base is like that. So I kind of draw a little bit of a comparison, not equally the same, but yeah, I mean, at some point you got to say, you know, it's either to me, I'm always about put up or shut up. Like it's as cutthroat as that is. I mean, I get it. You know, if Jordan Love was a rookie or something, yeah, I get it. But this season, you know, I expected him to win the MVP. I mean, you know, granted he got hurt and stuff. I picked Trevor Lawrence like 2 years ago, and that didn't pan out too well either. But it's just one of those things. Like, you expected the offense to. And like we saw it, like, you know, a couple months ago, they were kind of rolling. Like they were forced to be reckoned with. Now it's been inconsistent. Like you said, I mean, the slow starts have been an issue. You know, you talk about how they really didn't get the offense going until the fourth quarter against Minnesota, which that's just alarming. That's not what you want. So yeah, I mean, at some point you gotta either say, hey, is it we need a number one receiver type guy? Can we not run this by committee? Maybe that would change the offense. Is it Jordan Love thinking too much? Is it the coaching staff not putting him in the right position? Like, just the excuse of they're all young. Like, I that's just not good enough in my opinion. Like, it's the NFL. They're not playing, you know, this isn't backyard football where it doesn't, you know, they're winning $50 a week if they win the game. Like, this is, you know, you either win or you get you get criticized like that. I'm not saying they got to go undefeated, but they kind of fell out of the division race, unfortunately. And it's just, you start looking around like, how do we get to where we're at to where we want to go? And it's not by like, trust me, I've heard every team I've ever rooted for. I've heard every excuse in the world. And I hate it. It's like, okay, why can Ohio State figure out a way to put up 40 points? Like, is it really just nonstop talent that they get that no one else get, that Penn State doesn't get, that Minnesota doesn't get? Like, is it always that? Maybe. But like in this situation, I mean, I got to think, like, I have trust in Jordan Love now this year. He's kind of like backtracked a little bit. It's just, is it something they could be doing better to set him up? Like, or is it just Jordan Love? Like, we don't, that's the thing. We don't know. We don't, if Malik Willis played, I'm not going to say that Malik Willis should take his spot, but if he played these games, would the team look different? Like, that's a question. At least we don't know. We're not going to know. Jordan Love's the franchise guy. So in that aspect, even if it is a mental thing or a physical thing with Jordan Love, you gotta fix it. Like, he's your guy. It doesn't matter, young, old. You could have the oldest team in the league, like the Bears, right? You can look at them. Okay, Caleb Williams is your guy, no matter what is going on. So you got to figure out, okay, the O-line sucks. They don't have a coach. Like, those things you got to fix. But like the whole, they're young. Like, I don't love that. I've heard it before too. Like, I've heard it on teams I root for, and I'm like, that is that really what we're going with now? Like,
the excuse is good for, like, last season. It was good.
Yeah,
like Jordan Love in his first year, got it, good. But then you went on a run and you proved to us that Jordan Love, he proved to us that he deserved the contract that he got. I still think that he deserves the contract that he got, because I know he's not playing great. He's not playing what I think Jordan Love could be, but he's playing good. And I think he can be great. And I look at the rest of this team. I look at the wide receiver room. I look at everybody else. Yes, everybody's questioning, do the Packers need a number one guy? They're still questioning that. Do the Packers need a number one guy? At times, yeah, it sure does seem like that. It sure does. But right now, you got what's in the room, right? And I still think Christian Watson, he's got the ability to blow a top off defense. You have pieces around. You have the pieces right now that this could be a good team. It could be a great team. But you're killing yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And we have one across the text in line. I see your comment there, Dustin. We're going to get to you in a second here. But I got one on the text in line. Is it a trust factor for Love? Is he struggling to trust his guys, or is it just a confidence thing? I don't know. That's the biggest thing that we're kind of sitting here speculating and wondering is what is going on with Jordan Love? Because we talked about too, and I think I heard Dan Orlovsky talking about it on ESPN. He's like, Jordan Love, why does he not scramble? We've seen multiple instances where Jordan Love could get out of the pocket. He could take off and run. And we know he's got some legs to do it. So why doesn't he, right? Is something holding him back? Is it coaching? Is it himself? What is it that's holding him back? Is he letting the outside noises? It doesn't seem like he's a guy who lets that outside noise talk to him. But sometimes guys get, they kind of get into that outside noise. They kind of worry about that outside noise. Somebody in their ear, somebody telling them not to do this or do this. Right now, they need to just let Jordan Love be who he is. Just let him be who he is. You're going to have an interception. You're going to. You have to accept that. Look at Sam Darnold the other day. He played fantastic. But guess what? He threw a pick. He threw a pick in that game. But outside of that, he played fantastic. He tried to force a ball. It wasn't there. It was picked. But he was playing fantastic. Jordan Love can play fantastic, but you got to let him be himself. You got to let him be that guy. So, I mean, that's what we're kind of looking at with this team right now is they have the pieces. But the excuse cannot be that they're young anymore because, for the pre-snap penalties we talked about, right? The excuse was, well, they're young, and that's okay, right? You're going to have some hiccups. You're going to have some bumps in the road. But why have the pre-snap penalties not been cleaned up, right? Why has it not been cleaned up? This is a season now where at this point in the season, you should come prepared. You should come ready to rock. You should be able to go into a team like Minnesota and look like you belong because we know you do. We know you have a heck of a ball team. We know that you're a heck of a team, right? So why can't you walk into Minnesota and look like that? Why do you come in first drive of the game and you look like you're going to punch them in the mouth right at the start? You fumble the football, and then it just looks like you're lost. Then it just looks like you don't know what's going on anymore. Why is that the case? And that's kind of where we're leaning right now. Is it a Matt LaFleur problem? Because sometimes I think the way that Matt LaFleur shows his emotions on every third down and everything, where it's like, oh my God, freaking out because this didn't happen or this didn't happen. Like, I want my coach to get fired up. But when your players see you down, when your players see you look like you're defeated and you look like you're broken and it looks like you might be crying at times on the sideline, not going to say that he is, but I think it was that offside against the Vikings. It looked like he was like just, so out of it. It just looked like his emotions were getting the best of him. When you, as a head coach of a young football team or a football team in general, get broken, guess what? Your team kind of follows suit. You have to be the guy who walks in there like Dan Campbell does, or you look at Kevin O'Connell going into that game. The Vikings look like they were ready to rock. They look like they were ready to take some heads off in that game. And that's how they showed it. That's how they played. That's how he walked in. It was business as usual. They had moments in there where they could have caved. They didn't, right? Dan Campbell's the same way. There's moments in the games with Dan Campbell where you're like, are they going to fold here? Is this team going to beat him? And Dan Campbell rallies the troops. He gets them fired up. I don't think that Matt LaFleur can't get the guys fired up because I've seen, videos and everything like that where Matt LaFleur can get hot. We know he can get hot. He gets guys fired up. I don't think that's the problem. I think it's sometimes his emotions get the best of him during games. I really do think it is. Sometimes his emotions get the best of him, and I think that does drag guys down with him because when your quarterback sees you get emotional, your quarterback might get emotional. Your guys might get emotional along with you. So I know it's not college. I know your guys aren't supposed to be so impressionable, but you're going to have that. Your head coach is your guy. He's your leader. He's the guy who gets you fired up and he rallies the troops. He prepares you for these games. He prepares you to walk out on that football team and to be the best you can be out there. So if Matt LaFleur is struggling at that during games, like I talked about with the man-to-man coverage, the in-game adjustments, it's going to affect what we see on the football field. So that's kind of where we're looking right now. But I saw a guy. I knew I was going to see this after the Vikings game, Aaron. I knew I was going to see it. This is the last thing we got for the Packers before we get to our best and worst of 2024. I saw a guy, and he told me that the Packers are playoff frauds. They're playoff frauds is what he tells me. What do we think about that? And I'm hearing them and I see it and I'm like, okay, yes, they haven't beat the top 3 teams in the playoffs, right? They haven't beat the Eagles. They haven't beat the Lions. They haven't beat the Vikings. I get that. They haven't beat them. And honestly, they're a tipped field goal away from losing to the Bears and being 0-5 in conference play right now. We think about that. They could be 0-5 in the conference, right? In the division right now. But block field goal, it happens, right? You got that win. It still counts, right? Still counts. But are they playoff frauds? I don't think so. This team at times has showed us that they can be a good team, right? The problem is that we see it late. The problem is we see it in comebacks against the Vikings twice. We see it in comeback versus the Lions. We see it in a game against the Eagles where, it was down in Brazil's first game of the year. So you can speculate on that game a lot, but look at the rest of those games. It's comeback fashion. So for me, and I mentioned it with LaFleur before, is it because the Packers play tight at times? Because then the team plays tight, Jordan Love plays tight because Matt LaFleur is tight, so everybody gets tightened up. Is it that kind of factor? Is it that they're not playing loose? What is causing it? I think, like we talked about earlier with Jordan Love, let him play loose. Let this team play loose. Matt LaFleur loosen up a little bit. And I feel like this team is they could be a team to be reckoned with in the playoffs yet. Don't get me wrong. Yes, they've had their hiccups, and they haven't proven it to me. They haven't proven it to anybody that they can go and they can beat one of these top 3 teams. But I still think they can. I still really think that they can. And Aaron, I'm looking at, do you believe that this team is a playoff fraud? Do you believe that they're a fraud? Essentially nobody should really be speaking highly of them entering into the playoffs.
You could say they've kind of fallen back a little bit from where they were a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't say they're a playoff fraud. Let's say, I just pulled up the bracket there. Really, all these. Honestly, I guess you could make the argument that the Rams, Tampa Bay, or Green Bay are not a notch down right now. I'm just talking right now, going into it. Depending on and I'm not just saying this because the Eagles fan, but if Jalen, I don't like the notion that if Jalen Hurts doesn't play in 3 weeks, I don't like that. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So the Eagles are kind of yes, they have a great collective unit, but who knows with that situation? And then Washington, I can't say anything bad against them. I really can't. they're a roller coaster team to me. They're Jekyll and Hyde sometimes. I know Jane Daniels played hurt, but I mean the Packers. It's tough because, like you said, the top teams they haven't beat. Like if they would have beat Detroit once, even I would be more, I would say, bullish on them. But I still I'm kind of still in the same camp as you though. I think they still can beat any team in the playoffs. Like I don't rule them out. Like if Dallas was rolling there right there with Philly in the division, I would tell you Dallas is going to be a playoff fraud because they always do that. Green Bay to me, I don't want to like sound like I'm taking shots at the franchise, but they kind of remind me of like the Steelers as of late. Like they get there, and then they like when's the year? My thing is like when's the year are they gonna like last year? I mean, I can't take anything away. Like I think it was more so the Aaron Rodgers thing than the Packers as an organ. Like because Rodgers would every year, like when it got to like the third or fourth year of Rodgers getting to the playoffs, I was like, he's not going to Super Bowl again. Like it just one of those things.
The downfall of his career. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it was like the playoffs. It was like, oh god, like he just doesn't, or he didn't get it done. Like he got it done one time, but then after that, it was like Lamar Jackson playoffs. It's like Josh Allen trying to get over the Chiefs. Like when's that going to happen? We're still waiting. Lamar Jackson, we're still waiting. So it's tough. I respect the Packers more. More than to say that they're frauds. I would not throw that term out there. I mean, I think Tampa Bay, I shouldn't say that though. Tampa Bay always has the Eagles number.
Texans. Give me the Texans.
Are frauds. Yeah. And I think even on the, if you're looking at the AFC side, I think Pittsburgh's probably going to be a fraud too. They're trending the wrong direction at the wrong time.
Yep.
Their O-line to me has been trash all year. I don't care what their record is. Their O-line's not that good. So that's a fraud team. But like, I put the Packers above both of those teams right now, even though, we mentioned the Packers aren't playing great right now, but they could beat either. I know it's different conference. It's different, but I'd almost say, I don't want to say it's hard in the NFC. It's like, it feels like any of these teams, maybe Washington's a fraud. Maybe I still don't even know that. Their defense is suspect though. They give up a lot of points. Green Bay's defense does kind of work. I mean, it was against Minnesota though. It's like, wow, like Minnesota can chuck them up there. So no, I think going as far as to say they're frauds. I mean, if they get housed the first round, then you can say that. But like, we don't know. Playoff football is completely different anyway. That's the thing. Like maybe the Packers get it together in the playoffs. Maybe the Rams get it. Like we don't know who's gonna show up when they play 60 minutes in the playoffs. That's the whole thing.
It would make it even better if it plays out right. The Packers could have to walk through the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings all in a row. Or Vikings and Lions flip-flop. Like, that would be even better, is if they walk through all three. Everybody's telling them they can't beat the top three teams in the division, and they walk through all three of them and get to the Super Bowl. Like, that'd make it even better. Like, that would just show them all. Like, shout out the critics, right? You got to shut up the critics every once in a while. So, Aaron, I mean, let's get to Dustin's comment here. He said, remember what I said a month ago, and I got laughed at. Sorry for laughing at you, Dustin. We didn't mean to. I said the Vikings would win the division with Darnold, and if they did, I would fund the show with my winnings. Offer still stands. We'll take it. We'll take it. I mean, you told us, we told you we would accept your deal, that if you were going to fund the show, we would take it. So we'll take your deal. We'll take your deal.
I'm rooting for the Vikings this week. Yeah.
I will root for the Vikings. We will root for the Vikings if that offer is still on the table there. So, Aaron, before we get to our best and worst from 2024, what do we got for a fact of the day today?
Yeah, we haven't visited this for a little. I think intentionally we missed this, right? But kind of getting right back to it. And I'm bringing back the U.S. history. Why not, right? Why not? Kind of have to just visit it once in a while there. So, as I lose the tab. In 1892, Ellis Island opened as the U.S. Immigration Inspection Station. So, I mean, throwing it way back, right? But January 1st of 1892, Ellis Island is officially like the immigrant hub, if you will. That's big. Like that, I don't even know if they still. Now it makes me look really stupid. But is Ellis Island still really a thing? I don't know.
I have no idea. I could not answer that one for you.
Me either.
I could not answer that one. My wife did get me this history 2025 calendar, this fancy little calendar, and it's got the fact of the day too. So I'm gonna give
Oh, see, it's gonna outdo me for sure.
Fact of the day off of the calendar here. Hold on, gotta flip her open. Oh god, they have a lot of pages in here. January 1st, 1980, Princess Victoria becomes heiress apparent to Sweden. There we go. There's our fact of the day for this. That is like this. It's a history calendar too, so this is gonna be a bold one. Like we got Princess Victoria from 1980 as the first one out of the gates on January 1st. Like that, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Big shoes to fill now. I got big shoes to fill.
I don't know if you can top it. This is history.com, man. Like this is bold stuff here. It doesn't stand up very nice, but that's okay. That's okay. So let's get to our best and the worst of 2024 to wrap us up. Best and worst of 2024. Aaron, do you want to do your best and worst of 2024 first?
We want to alternate. We could do like your best.
We can alternate. We can alternate. We got to go best and worst. So what do you got? We'll go best first. We'll go number one. What's your best of 2024? Whether it's Penn State wise, national wise. I did all Wisconsin sports. So if you got best of Penn State or best of national sports, you let me know.
Yeah. I was thinking. I just wanted to get a little clarify on that, but I was thinking Philadelphia sports just because
that'll do. That'll do.
So we're doing best. You said first.
Best of 2024. So what was the best?
Honestly, it's kind of cliche, I guess, but the Eagles getting Saquon to me was like, wow, like that was and I'm always, you know me, I'm glass half empty type of guy when it comes to like what could happen. So when they signed him, I'm like, watch, he's gonna get. I don't even want to talk about it now, but watch, he's gonna get hurt or something. Like that was like my thing because with the Giants, he got hurt a couple. It was not just one time. I was like, oh man, like now we just kind of unloaded for a guy that gets hurt. But I mean, just seeing him play at Penn State as much as I did, like the guy in college was, the real deal. And then, him going to the Giants kind of was like, that sucks. But, then the Eagles, I didn't expect them to go get him. And that was just like, wow, like it's a guy that I've it's not just like a guy in the NFL. Like if they would have got Derrick Henry, that'd be cool. But it's like, I had no ties to Derrick Henry outside of, like just being a fan of him. It's, the Penn State connection and then going to the Eagles, I was shocked. And then for him to put up like the 2,000 yards this year, it's been like kind of a dream come true so far. So yeah, that I'll put that as, I guess, my best, I would say.
All right. My best, Garrett Mitchell, 2-run home run to take the lead versus the Mets in game 2 in the bottom of the 8th of that wild card series. We all know the outcome, but that shot was just, magical. It was magical. And then you listen to Jeff Levering make the call on the radio. Don't listen to the MLB announcers make the call. Listen to Jeff Levering make that call on the radio. And I don't know what you guys got out there in Philly, but I love Wisconsin's announcers for sports, especially the radio guys. Matt LePay and Jeff Levering, Bob Uecker, of course. You got to have him in there. But I love the radio guys because a good announcer, you go through the emotions with them. Like you can feel the emotion that they have towards. We played back that when Jeff Levering signed off for the season, and we don't know if it's because Bob Uecker was his last call or whatever it was, But you could hear him. He was almost crying, and he was like, you could feel the emotion through Jeff, where it was like, this sucks. This sucks. And I just love announcers like that. But yeah, my number one has got to be Garrett Mitchell's 2-run home run in that bottom of the 8th inning against the Mets there to put the Brewers on top. That was nothing but fantastic. I'll double up here before I shoot it back to you. My number 2 has got to be the main man, Jackson Chourio. Before that Garrett Mitchell 2-run home run, he had the solo shot to tie it up there in the bottom of the 8th inning there in game 2 against the Mets. So I got to double up there in that wild card game. Jackson Chourio and Garrett Mitchell are my 1 and 2 because that was emotions on top of emotions. Like it felt like the wind was out of the sails up until that point. And then Jackson Chourio, the man, the myth, the legend, the future of Brewer baseball, takes that shot and then Garrett Mitchell to back it up. Like that was, wow. You can't beat it. You can't beat that for Wisconsin sports. So Aaron, what do you got? Number 2.
Yeah, I'll double up there. Because as soon as you said I'll double up, the Penn State USC game popped in my head just because I thought they were dead in the water. I got to be honest with you. I was like 20-6 at halftime. Colin Cowherd's on on X, just I told you Penn State's not that good. I told you USC's the real deal. And then they just come out and I mean it was like second and long, third and long, fourth. They went for it on fourth a couple. It just felt like okay, one of the I just said, I get very negative when it comes to like, oh, when's the train gonna come off the tracks here? And it just felt like every third down conversion they got, every break they needed went their way. And I'm so used to it not going their way in a situation when they're down like that. So that, I mean, just the receiving core, which is like to me is not that great. Like outside of Warren, Warren and Trey Wallace, yes. Outside of that, it's like scraps. Literally, it's like you feed the pigs with the scraps. That's about what you're working with there. Like Liam Clifford made some catches, which is like unheard of, and then Julian Fleming, the kid from Ohio State that transferred over, like that was second best part of the year, just because like I mean, if they lose that game, who knows if they're even in the college football playoff? Because you pretty much give them a loss to Ohio State every year, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. And like they found a way, and I think that basically saved the fact that they're going to be in the Final Four of college football. If without that game, there's a very good chance they're not. So,
all right, I like that one. I got Brandon McManus with his walk-off field goal in his Packers debut versus the Texans, because making his debut, that was already, I mean, they signed him on Wednesday and he just shows up and just starts kicking for him. And then to kick that walk-off was fantastic. My number 4 has got to be the Packers going to Jerry World and beating the Cowboys on their own field and just starting to dismantle what is now the Cowboys. They have not been the same since that game. So, I mean, the Packers did a number on them on that night. So that's got to be my number 4 there.
I'm trying to think back now.
You don't have to think too hard. I mean, I made a list. I was surprising you with the question. If you got one more, I can name off my last 2, and then we can just be good enough with our best of 2024.
Yeah, I'll give you another. I guess just the fact that I'll just say this season. I mean, after the Eagles going 2-2, I mean they lost one game since then, the Washington game, but just beating Baltimore the way they did, a lot of people said Baltimore was going to run them out of the building and this and that. Like they're just surprisingly good team. With the Eagles, I'm always like, oh my God, just the whole notion that this could all go wrong too. Like it always feels like they're like one string away from like it collapsing for whatever reason. They've been a pretty good franchise the last 5 to 10 years. One Super Bowl in that time, but it just you never know. You never truly, even with the star power they have and this and that. So just after the 2-2 start, when they wanted to fire Sirianni, the whole town was about to burn the whole thing down, and they found a way. So just them, NFC East champs, all just that has, especially after last year, because last year 10-1, and then they completely fell apart and got handled by Tampa in the playoffs. So
yeah, no, I mean it's been an impressive stretch for the Eagles so far. I mean, holy crap! But Saquon is sitting out versus the Giants, so he will not break the record. So
I'm good. We did
find that out.
Yeah. What do you think? Like if you're the Packers, like let's just say Jacobs is going for it. Same situation plays out. You got the 2 seed locked up, or you're not
as many injuries as the Packers have. As many injuries as the Packers have, sit out. Just stay out. We'll just rest you until next week. But since the Packers have been struggling, I'm sending them out there against the Bears. Go take care of business. Absolutely. Go take care of them. So I got 3 more, actually. I got 3 more on you. Number 5, Badgers upset number 1 Purdue in the Big Ten tournament there in an overtime win with a Max Klesmit floater shot there at the end of overtime. Gotta love Max. That's a big time shot for Max there. Number 6, Sal Frelick robs Taylor Ward of a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 9th in a 6-3 game against the Angels. Sal Frelick. I mean, that's all I got to say there. And one more guy. This is all I got to say. Blake Perkins. That's all I got to say. Blake Perkins just robs home runs like it's his job. Like he just slow ganter back to the wall, leap, catch, move on with life. Like that's Blake Perkins. So, I mean, I got Blake Perkins there as my honorable mention with my 2024 best of the year. Let's move on to our worst of 2024. I'll start. Here's my worst. My number 1.
I think
Evan Williams.
Yep.
That's it. Just him. That's it. Just him. Not the Mets game, just Devin Williams. He hurt me. He hurt me bad. My favorite thing was, what it was, Grant Bills posted. He goes, Guy F's entire state, and it was a picture of Devin Williams, and I'm like, pretty much, like, this is how everybody's feeling right now. Like that, I know I sent it to you that time. Like, that was hilarious. But I mean, Devin Williams, man, he gives you the highs, and when it's low, and it came to low at the worst possible point. So Devin Williams is my number one worst of 2024.
Yeah, man, I kind of want to just say the Phillies as a whole. Because I know the bullpen imploded and this, but I mean the lineup went ice cold. Like that Mets series was. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know the Mets find a way. Like it seemed like the second Pete Alonso hit that home run, unfortunately against your Brewers there, it was like the Mets were. I wouldn't have been shocked if they made the World Series after that. Like I just that was one of those like wow that just happened moments, and you know they buzz right through the Phillies, and then you know they meet their match with the Dodgers, who were way too much for them. But just the way the Phillies collapsed again. I mean, they're just you know it's almost every year they're actually getting worse. Like it's you know you get to the World Series a couple years ago, then you get to the NLCS against the Diamondbacks there, and then now you get to the NLDS against the Mets. So it's like that's not good. There's something going on there. And then their offseason, I mean, they get Max Kepler. That's about it. I don't. And shoot, there's a bullpen guy from the Blue Jays. I don't remember his name now, but he's decent. But I mean, underwhelming to me. I mean, yeah, obviously there's guys still out there, but like you know, you could have went and got Burns. You could have like if you're they're one of those teams like their ownership says they want to compete for a World Series. How serious are you though? Like you're letting the Dodgers just pick everybody up. The Yankees have gotten, I think, substantially better this offseason. So you got the Mets. Obviously, the Mets get Soto. Like so yeah, just kind of where the Phillies are at, what happened to the Phillies in the NLDS. Just the whole picture there is not great right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that one there. I'm gonna go my honorable mentions: the Yelich injury, the Garrett Mitchell injury early on in the year. Like those are my honorable mentions. Number 2, Badgers lose in first round to James Madison in the NCAA tournament. Every year. I could put it as my worst of 2023, worst of 2022. Like just getting doused in the first round, boys. Like that's what we love to do. So Badgers lose to James Madison in that first round. My number 3, Aaron, the Big Ten expansion. Don't like it. I don't like seeing Oregon. I wish John was here tonight. I could tell him all about it. I don't like seeing Oregon.
He's not, right?
He's not here, and I'm talking crap. I don't like seeing Oregon. I don't like him. But, hey, I mean, it's supposed to be good for business, more money, everything like that. But I hate the expanding conferences. I hate the across the country. We got 9 o'clock games for basketball. Like, I hate that. I don't even know. What is the tip time? I was just going to look at that. Tip time for – see, like this right here. The tip time for UCLA and the Badgers on the 21st of January, 8:30 at night. 8:30 at night. That's past my bedtime, folks. That's past my bedtime. Hate that. Just hate that. What is the 21st? Is it a please tell me it's like a Saturday or something. 21st is a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. Like who's staying up on a Tuesday until 8:30 at night to watch the Badgers? Like that's just ridiculous.
That's not even like Thursday where it's like you can limp through Friday. Like
that's what I'm saying. I got to get to Wednesday now. Like I can't.
Yeah, just getting through the hump day. Oh, that sucks. Yeah,
hate it. East Coast time was bad enough for me trying to figure out East Coast Central time. Now I got to figure out West Coast times too. Just ridiculous. So Big Ten expansion, one of my worst of 2024.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'll go. I guess I think this is my second worst. It was. I mean, stick with Philadelphia again. 10-1 start last year with the Eagles. 10-1. I think they finished 10-7. Like it was just like, what in the world is going on? And then they go down to Tampa, which I never want to see Tampa, and I never want to see the Saints in the playoffs. It's just it never ever ends well. Like if I could see the combined record of just the Eagles playing those two teams, even in the regular season, when those two teams are like average to above average, it just doesn't work. And yeah, they go down there, get embarrassed. I get trolled for forever. On X and everything else. So it was, that was a colossal. I mean, I thought Sirianni might get fired. I know it's quick, knee jerk, but like you start 10-1 and you lose I think it was 6 of the last 7. I think that's what it was. And just, yeah, that was brutal. And then your hopes are up because you're 10-1. You think, oh, this team might go to the Super Bowl, and then boom, you get it wasn't even close in the first round. I thought the offensive and the defensive coordinator from last year, just Brian Johnson, in-house guy, horrible. And then they started with Sean Desai, and then they went to Matt Patricia at like week 14. It was just, I mean, chaos. Like it was like something the Raiders would do. And like I'm just like, where are we as a franchise? But thankfully this year it's different. But man, that was one of the worst collapses I've ever seen a team. I don't care what team, 10-1 to 10-7. Like that was just like, wow.
Yeah. No, that was wild. That was a wild end of the year for the Eagles there. Number 4, Badger football. Just in general, a big letdown for me in 2024. Not gonna lie at all. That was expected it to take a little bit of a step forward and at least make a bowl game, and that was a colossal letdown. So yeah, I'm gonna go Badger football in general in 2024. Also 2024, my Packers losing in heartbreaking fashion to the 49ers, because I felt like they had opportunities where they could have won that game, and a missed field goal by Carlson, and then Jordan Love throws the interception late. It was just, you felt like all game long the Packers were going to do it. They were just going to find a way to do it, and then it just fell apart. It just fell apart at the seams. So my last one will be the Packers lose in heartbreaking fashion to the 49ers.
Very fair. Very, yeah. I'm going to totally switch gears on you. I'm not even going to keep it a team that I, actively root for, and a sport we don't talk about, but the NHL, the Stanley Cup. I hate to say it, but like if I have a Canadian team, right, I do like the Oilers for whatever. Like I use them in the NHL, the video game, so it's like it's not like I have a rooting interest in them, but like if they're in it, I'll pull for them, like that type of deal. And they're down 3-0 to Florida, and they come back 3-3, and I'm like, that's epic. Like that's Boston Red Sox, Yankees 04 ALCS type stuff. And then they lose game 7. Like that was, it just sucked because it was more so I'm rooting against the evils that are the Panthers, in my opinion. I just don't like them. And then they came back like a 3-0 hole. And then, you come all the way back 3-3 is like, wow, like they're going to do it. And then they come out flat in game 7. And like Connor McDavid, like probably the best player in the NHL, in my opinion, right now. I mean, I saw all the clips of him in the locker room. Like, just, I mean, that guy. Say what you want about certain guys, taking nights off. That guy doesn't take a shift off in the NHL. So respect to him, but that was just kind of gut wrenching when you're down 3-0, you come back and then you lose it. It's like, did you really want to come? I know you can't play the what if game, but like, if you could avoid coming back just to like, so you don't feel that pain. I mean, that's brutal for them more so than me, but that sucks.
Yeah, no, I would agree there. So there is our best and worst of the 2024 year. Now we're on to 2025. What's going to be the thing that, what is it going to be? The Packers, the Badgers? What's going to let us down first? That's what we want to know. That's what we want to know there. So, Aaron, anything else we got to wrap us up here?
Not really. Obviously unfortunate in New Orleans last night, thoughts, prayers, etc. is with those people. That's it seems like every year at like New Year's something has to happen, like, and that doesn't have to, but like it does happen. So that just sucks. I mean, innocent people getting killed is brutal. They push back the sugar, like football is kind of, thought about afterwards, all that, but the Sugar Bowl it's just chaos like that just one of those things. And then the only other thing I want to ask you is I sent you that clip of did you see Enigma with that scene?
I've watched one episode so far. I've watched one episode of Enigma so far. I've been working on getting to episode 2. We're getting there.
I haven't watched. I've only seen like clips that like I've sent off to you, and I mean Aaron Rodgers, man, that guy. I guess if he's happy, that's all. But he's out there. He's out there.
I dislike that guy sometimes, but when I'm watching the first episode, and he's talking about, passing routes, and he's talking about percentages and like the odds of he like it's showing on the screen like a root, like a tree. And it showed like, this guy's running a go route, this guy's running an in, and it's showing all these different routes. And he's, talking about it to these two other people. And he's like, these are the percentages of, catchability, right? If I throw it to this guy, this is a success rate. If I throw it to this guy, this is, the success rate. And he's like, this is all the stuff that runs through my mind when I'm throwing a football. And it's like, wow, like, you're out there like basically dissecting numbers on a football field. And I dislike the guy at times, and I think he does say some stupid things. I really do, but he is smart. Like I think that they think that he tries to be too, he tries to outsmart everybody, which is his biggest problem. Is he tries to be the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes I truthfully think he is. Like he is smart. He is a smart dude. It's just he's a little goofy. He's definitely a little goofy there. So we'll talk about that more when we both get to watch the full Enigma series, because I haven't watched episode 2 yet. So I don't know where my perspective is going to sway after that there. But Aaron, with that, I mean, we're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here for the night. We'll be back on Friday there. So we'll talk about more of this stuff. So with that, for Aaron and myself, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you guys back here on Friday. But until then, see ya.